All right, guys, we're back here in the lab. Going to do a free play podcast on number 1, early employment at free play. We've got employee number 2 tied with another 5 or so other people. Chase Hoskins here. He is now the bar manager at Free Play Richardson and runs our bar program at all of our free play locations. We're going to also be talking a little bit about that beer program, the bar program that Chase runs, and just kind of dive into it. But we're going to start off, we're going to talk about the early days. We're going to go back in time here. We are going to discuss day -100 when we posted onto the Free Play blog, which was a development blog. It was our only real promotion marketing that we did earlier. Was we started a little development blog as we built Free Play, which now we know that's kind of a terrible idea because of how the building process actually goes for an arcade. You never know if permits are going to tie you up and all of that stuff.
No, but we wanted to put information out there because people were really excited about what we were doing, and we needed to make sure that people understood that we just wanted to create the best arcade that has ever existed in all of history, and we were a little pretentious about it.
Well, that's strong. Those are strong words. That's raw arrogance, and we're powered most of the time by our arrogance. Because if we hold ourselves to that standard, it might actually happen, right?
Right.
If we say that our games are not going to break, we're going to do everything we can to have our games not break. We're going to go to the extra mile, and that was the philosophy we went into. And then we had to hire a crew. We had to hire a staff, and though I had done occasional interviewing type things for my law firm before Free Play, it was something we were pretty new at. We both interviewed for things, but being on the other side of the table, we weren't very experienced on, and we didn't really know what we were looking for in our employees, other than obviously we want good employees, whatever the heck that means. So we posted a little job ad that just said, hey guys, Free Play is coming. We want staff. We're hiring. We're going to pay this much. Please send your applications in if you've ever wanted to work in an arcade. We were hiring for hosts, techs, cooks, and bartenders. And within a week, I think we'd received more than 300 applications. Mm-hmm. At the end of it, it crossed 1,000. And sorting through that was a pain. And I remember some of the first conversations we had where it was like, how do we decide based on a short, blurb about who they are, based on filling out the application, that kind of stuff, where we were. And I checked out the numbers before we started this, and we had more than 1,000 applicants who sent in the short application. Then we'd respond to them with either saying, please send us a resume or a long application. That actually got it down to about 250, 200 that did that step. And then we would start trying to, if their resume or application was good enough or kind of fit what we were looking for, we'd call them in for an interview. And so it was a challenge. Some people do really, really good writing a resume, and then they come to an interview and it's a totally different person. We had that happen. We had I don't want to be mean to anyone. We had some pretty bizarre interviews. We had interviews that we thought would last about 5 minutes, last an hour and a half, that kind of stuff, which that person did not get the job. It was an interesting interview. It was a good experience. But
we were also, first time interviewing people, so we were kind of honing our interviewee skills, working on all of these things. And, to be completely honest, we also just wanted to talk about what we were doing. And the more we talked to people, the better we got at, figuring out how the interview process should actually work for Free Play Arcade.
Well, yeah, now it's kind of just jumping into the future. At this point, whenever I interview someone for a position, I know probably within 2 minutes of meeting them whether or not we're going to hire them. And it's really refined based on what has worked well in the past with our employees. And just there's another brief background. We have the lowest turnover probably in the entire industry. Chase was a day one employee, and of our day one employees, I think only Holly is no longer with. She was a host, young, and just kind of moved on to another job. But other than that, every single day one employee is still with us. And in the service industry, that's pretty outrageous. That's pretty insane. And so we have Chase here, day one employee. So Chase, how did you find out about Free Play when you found out about Free Play?
I saw both of, you had 2 ads up, one on Craigslist, I believe, and one on Reddit. And I saw Reddit first, and I just kind of shot you an email with my resume. Didn't really hear anything back, so I just kind of started blowing up y'all's email. I think I had
we do have the first thing you sent us.
Oh no.
So we ended up opening
paperwork.
Oh no.
Well, it's technology is amazing. I was able to find this in like 2 seconds. All I had to do was search Chase Hoskins application, and there it was. It was awesome.
You know, I've still got like filtered emails in my account right now for all of the different
get them in the right
groups
place.
of people.
Well, so November 4th, you apply at 9:30 p.m. This is about a month before we opened, and you said expert in customer service, which I think is true.
Yeah.
Really passionate about games and technology. I think that's also true.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And then he says, I would be the perfect fit for this job, which, you know, I think a lot of people would say that when they're applying for any job. They all want to be, they're all the perfect fit. I mean, did you go to after, because you had to go to our development blog to fill out this form. Did you read anything about free play? Did you read our posts or anything? Or were
Yeah,
you
I was
just
reading.
like, I heard about an arcade, I'm going to try to work
I
it?
dug through your Reddit posts and I was reading about the development of the place, and how the date was kept getting pushed back, and it was like attacking your email pretty much, trying to get through until you responded.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. That's interesting. So your official application was November 4th, but before that, you had somehow found my email address and had emailed me not through the proper application process on October 27th, talking about, you know, wanting a job. In fact, you go on and on. Let's talk about your history. What were you doing before you came to Free Play?
I worked at another craft beer bar, had over 100 taps, and worked with managing that system, their draft system. It was a nightmare. It was a mess. The CO2 was leaking everywhere. Lines were never correct. So
We're not here to name names, but this place was recently named one of the 8 douchiest bars in DFW.
that it was.
I think they were the most controversial pick, and I will not actually say that website should get any hits for that, but I thought that was pretty funny. All right, keep going.
But yeah, and then before that, where was I? That was a while ago.
I have I have your resume.
Oh shoot.
Nice.
A certain burrito chain.
Oh god, Freebirds. Yeah.
Hey, no names.
My bad.
Come on now. Freebirds, you do look like a Freebirds employee.
Hey.
I can.
You've already said it, man.
Pot shots.
So you were. No, I mean they have a type. I don't know. I eat there sometimes. Despite that, no, I'm just kidding. Okay. So which Freebirds were you working at?
I opened the one in Frisco.
That's
the very
right.
first
That's
one,
right.
yeah.
You were kind of a day one for that location.
Yeah, yeah. And then Mellow Mushroom as well. Opened up one of those in Frisco. And then I was working at Peace Pipe for quite a while, the hookah bar, which was an interesting experience.
And they don't serve alcohol, right?
No, it's BYOB.
It's illegal, right?
Yeah,
to combine those two models. So I bet the BYOB aspect of that's pretty nuts.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Like maybe you get good at working with people in that kind of environment.
You definitely meet a lot of different types of people.
All right, so you send in this information as a grill master, huh?
God.
Okay, so then you send in the application, you send in everything. We send you something back trying to schedule interviews. And I remember we had like our first 2 days of interviews were just jam-packed. It was all
we just
interviews.
knocked everyone out. Well, we were trying to in 30-minute segments.
Right. We try to do 30 minutes. And like I said, now we're talking like 10 minutes interviews feel long to us now. But we had them blocked in 30-minute blocks, and we had probably our 20 top candidates out of the 300 or 400 that we had at that time before things really started to ramp up. And Chase was one of them. He came in for an interview. Chase, describe where you did your interview.
Pulled up to the Hayden law firm.
That's right.
And then you had me wait in the lobby for a little bit. Then you took me to the conference room, and then proceeded to ask me some standard questions. And then it just kind of seemed the questions near the end seemed irrelevant to the to the arcade. I think you were asking me questions about my favorite 80s songs.
So one of our things we were trying to, we had never hired anyone for this job. And we were trying to figure out, probably more for the future than anything else, what would work well in terms of trying to figure out people's personalities, especially in hospitality, at front of the house hospitality. Personalities go a long way. Personalities are almost everything. A while you have to be great at customer service, dealing with issues that come up and everything, your own personality is what comes through on your service. And so we asked some questions, and I don't remember what your answers were, but I definitely remember they were not 80s movies or 80s songs.
Yeah, I definitely left confused and very worried.
Well, yeah. So I guess that's so you come to the law firm.
We could recreate this moment because it was just the two of us sitting there.
Right.
So Chase, what is your favorite 80s movie?
Hey, I want to see if it's changed since you sent a follow-up email. So Chase, he leaves and he clearly thinks he doesn't have the job, because we've hired a bunch of people who've sent these weird follow-up emails.
True.
And Chase sent his own weird follow-up email that was like, "Oh crap, I screwed everything up. I'm so sorry. I really want to work with y'all. For what it's worth, I completely fudged the 80s question. First of all." I meant, all right, so what song did you mean, if you can remember during the interview? We asked you your favorite 80s song, and then you later clarified. What was your clarification? Your favorite 80s song. Now,
this is The Man Who Sold the World, wasn't it?
Yes, good job. So this is
ding ding.
Chase has now listened to 80s music for like 2.5 or 2 years and change.
Listened
straight.
Exclusively to
All
80s music.
So maybe I bet he has a little bit more songs he might put on a list for top 80 songs. I mean, that's still a killer song. So we're gonna go ahead and read this whole email. He goes on, he clarifies, because he also missed the 80s movie question.
Oh no!
Which is, you can just name any 80s movie and we're just be like, okay, cool.
I don't even know what I said.
I don't remember what you said, but it was like Jurassic Park or something.
No, it was not. It was not Jurassic Park.
It was definitely a movie that was not an 80s movie, though.
Right. It was like obvious. And it's funny because when you're in the interview, you don't like correct them right then. You're just like, yeah, all right, thanks for your time. We'll see you later, Chase. So he says, I cannot believe I blanked. I can only hope the 80s gods smile. Don't smite me. Also, my vernacular changes drastically around patrons, so I guess he thought he kind of talked a little too abruptly. Now, the law firm is designed, of course, to be intimidating. It's a law firm.
Yeah.
You walk into it, it's nice. You go into the conference room, you've got two people sitting across the table from you, just drilling you with questions. It's a tough situation, and we knew that going in. But you can always really tell people who are passionate about it, and I'm not actually encouraging this because it's probably bad job advice for the future, but the weird follow-up email has had 100% success rate, I believe, at Free Play. Not the just standard generic thank you for your time. It's when you're just like scrambling to get the job. We always find that very, very charming.
Didn't Julie do one of those too?
Come on, I was trying not to say that, but yes, Julie did do something like that. Our wonderful, complete office manager and administrative assistant, the person who keeps everything in order at Free Play. She is amazing, and she
is amazing.
About 30 minutes before we were sending her the email that said, "You're hired. I'm sorry it took us a little bit too long to get back to you." She sent something that was just like, "Guys, I want to work for you. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what's going on. You have to hire me." And then we were like, "All right, cool. Yeah, we're hiring you." So and she was like, "I knew that was going to work." No, she was like, "You probably think I'm crazy for sending this email." Just kind of like what you said here.
Oh no, you have more emails.
And what's really great is, in this email, you had to say, "This is the last email I'll send until I hear back from you guys. I promise." And you misspelled promise.
I did. Thanks.
It says
Thanks for that one.
I really hope I'm a good fit, but either way, best of luck, fellas. The concept is solid. And then see, this
was nice of him.
Yeah, then you get a little bit of kind of aggressive, trying to make sure we know you have other options. I'm still interviewing, you say, and you guys are on the top of my list. Let me know when you've made a decision. As of right now, someone wants you. Someone else wants you, and then you give us some other places that you're going to be interviewing. A sushi bar. So the sooner I know, the better, you say. Trying to put some time pressure, making it feel like it's time sensitive on us to hire you.
Trying to play us.
We did, of course, give you the job.
Well, it was really interesting because I remember immediately after interviewing him, Chase comes in, and we have a discussion because we've just been interviewing all of these different people. Some of them good, some of them just absolutely not a good fit for Free Play. And as soon as Chase came in, we knew that he was a real service industry guy, that he really felt like someone who would work in our establishment. So we didn't even have like the reservations, or I guess he felt awkward during the interview, but for us it was just, man, he's on our list. Like we'll see if we can make him work.
Well, yeah, it was really interesting because we had so many interviews those 2 days, and pretty much everyone that we hired those were like the clear choices. It was never, there were some people that just we knew wouldn't be a good fit, some people that really didn't have service industry experience that wanted to get into it, and we just thought, geez, that sounds really dangerous because this is a brand new concept for us. So we hired some service industry vets. We hired some our game tech was actually previously a game tech. Josh, who's awesome, and
Amazing.
Came in, and interestingly enough, though, all of the service industry people, kind of having previously worked in the service industry, wanted part-time just to protect themselves. They wanted to go keep working elsewhere just in case it didn't work out. And very quickly, all of those people went full-time as soon as we all realized, hey, this is going to be a hit. This is a success.
Well, the timing of things back then, I actually landed those 2 jobs that were also interviewing me, and I ditched those 2 jobs to work for y'all. So there's that too. I'm just saying, that wasn't a lie. That wasn't a lie.
How many jobs you had at the time?
No, that wasn't a lie. I'm just saying. I wasn't just putting pressure on you.
Okay, so you get the job, and then you have to come for so in the background here, we're trying to get permits, we're trying to get open, and things, like they always seem to, are more difficult than you'd hope. And getting these final few steps done was taking way longer. Plus, we hit Thanksgiving, and the city wasn't working during Thanksgiving very much, and I'm kind of stringing along our new employees. I'm sitting on emails that say, this is when we're going to have training. This is when we're going to do it. And finally, we have a firm date, and you come in for paperwork, training, and stuff. Can you describe that day?
Yeah, I went to the wrong building.
Right.
Yeah.
Chase was about 2 hours late.
I walk in, and I think y'all are still doing build out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you
That's right. You were doing the training. I was on site
trying to finish.
Still trying to work on the build, and Chase comes walking through the door asking, "Hey, where is everyone?"
Yeah, where's my training? And he eventually finds the right place. Comes to the law firm. And we were doing really boring stuff that we needed to get out of the way, but also we needed something to do with all these employees that we'd hired to make sure they knew that we were kind of real. So yeah, we had them fill out their preliminary paperwork, train them on the POS, go through some very boring insurance things that it's kind of funny because all those early day one employees, they get a nice insurance speech about these are the do's and these are the don'ts. This is what insurance wants me to tell you about. The ones that are hired in the middle, they kind of have to get it along the way because there's no time for an orientation. So it's really nice. I think, well, as a lawyer, it's really nice. I think the employees were bored out of their minds.
Absolutely.
Just sitting there like, oh my God, is he going to tell us? It was, don't go behind the games. Don't reach inside the games. Don't move the games. And I actually totally spaced. Our tech was in that meeting, and I had actually told him, don't go behind the games, don't move the games. And I think it took about 2 days, and I was like, Josh, just move that. And he was like, you told me I can't. Oh no, he was like, I'm not allowed to. And I was like, who told you that? And he was like, you did. And like, so we've had to refine that over the years, but yeah, so Chase strolls in. It seriously was substantially late. All of the coworkers, who are still pretty much his coworkers, looked at him like, what the hell is he doing? This is the first day and you're like an hour and a half late. And then Chase, I don't even remember. I think he was still working somewhere else and he had to leave early too.
Yeah, it did not look good.
And everyone was just like, is he going to work out? I'm like, nah, I think he's okay. So go through that orientation and we get open. We email and we say, this is all hands on deck. We had a kind of a VIP
beta test.
Well, we had a beta test, and then the next day was a VIP grand opening party, which I think we should get back to. I really like that. But
and at this point, how many employees do we have?
Me, Mike.
It's 2 bartenders, right. And then we have Jose.
Yep.
So 1 in the kitchen.
And we have 1 host.
1 host, Holly.
Yeah. Us. You and I are running around.
Your mom.
Yeah, my mom is around. It's
Josh.
And Josh is around.
Yeah.
That's the entire staff.
And we thought that we had enough people to run a business.
Well, and with most of them, except for Josh being part-time because they weren't sure it was going to work. So we opened, and Richard and I are obviously working a lot, but describe kind of walking in your first day that you're scheduled to actually work at the arcade behind the bar.
We still weren't done with the build out. So me and Mike just kind of started hopping in there and helping get everything together.
So you walk into a total work site.
Yeah, it's a construction zone.
And you have your new boss screaming, we need to get all this construction stuff out back. We have people showing up in like 3 hours. We have to run. And so, yeah, y'all are all like wheelbarrowing construction debris and stuff out. We're sweeping.
We're cleaning.
We're desperately wiping stuff down. and then we had a beta test.
Wait. Did we have any products at this point?
We didn't have any beer, did we?
We did. We got Thursday, which we did a beta test on a Thursday. Thursday at like
We had like Shiner
3
and Blue
p.m.
Moon.
No, it was like 30 beers show up. It was absolutely. I had been working with different reps for a while, but that shows up. We go and we buy all the food for the kitchen. I mean, it was all very last second. I'm going back and forth, and of course, we're just hemorrhaging money. The day before you open, I'm sitting there just like, oh my god, I hope this works because it's money everywhere.
Well, and that was great because we had Jose back in the kitchen, and he had never made any of the food that we were going to serve at the party.
So this was the big mistake we did on the beta test. We did half off food to test the menu, which unfortunately meant a lot of people tried to order food, and we were all in the kitchen desperately trying to just get this food out. And Jose had never made any of the menu. He had no idea what he was doing.
No, we'd made like one of each sandwich just to make sure that our recipes worked.
And I mean, but ultimately it all worked out. Were you concerned at that point that this was just going to be done? that like we were going to be around for a week and that it would be over?
It was definitely an interesting experience watching all of us kind of figure everything out as we went along.
Well, yeah, and
a
of
little
course,
bit concerning, but
you showed up and you had 1 minute on our POS system. You had no idea what products we were going to have.
yeah,
we were running around. I mean, like that day, I bought the CO2 for the kegerator. We're all just running around trying to figure out how to hook everything up. It was a mad dash, and I think we ended up with 2. And this was a true hot shot, and now we know that hot shots distributors don't like doing hot shots, and we were kind of subject to the beer we could get. I think we ended up with 2 raw beers, Ugly Pug and their blonde. Right?
Yeah, that's it.
That was all we had. Mm-hmm. And I remember looking at reviews from our beta test and people being like, I don't know why, I guess they're sponsored by like raw. There's a response somewhere from me just being like, that was all we could get at the time. I promise there's more beer coming. It's going to change. And we're going to get to that later in this podcast. But still, when did you decide? I can't remember when it was that you decided to go full time at Free Play.
I believe I had those 2 jobs, and about a month in is when I was like, look, I'm serious about this. I don't want you to think that I'm not all the way in. And so I just had to give them some notice so I could leave.
Right, and that made Richard's and my life a lot better.
Absolutely.
Because Mike had also started with us as our...
And he was working somewhere else as well.
Yeah, he was. Yep. And y'all were both part-time. And I think it was each about a month in that we all realized this was real, this was going to be big, this was going to stay.
Well, and you and me realized that we couldn't be working...
Well, yeah, we were showing up at 9 to 10 a.m. and working till midnight every single night for all of that December that we opened.
Driving ourselves crazy.
I mean, in a lot of ways, I miss it because I was so close to the product. I was so close to the customers. I knew exactly what was going on with all the games. That was really a neat experience. And it's not sustainable, but man, I do miss it sometimes. All right, so you then, I don't know, 6 months later, 9 months later, become bar manager.
Yes. I think somebody forgot to order beer or something, and I was there, and I just kind of picked it up at one point.
Right, and so
started
now,
doing it.
So yeah, let's. That is kind of, I mean, the story of how you started to Free Play and the interview process and what we did. And I mean, we were all of us were super green at everything. And the lucky thing was we had people. We had customers come through the door, so we were able to learn on all of it. And the great thing is when you first open it, and we were the first of our kind in Dallas. We're also, I mean, it seems to be, and the reporters have said this, we were the first retro arcade to operate on like a Free Play model and then have beer. We weren't the first beer retro arcade. We weren't the first Free Play retro arcade, but we were, it seems, to be the first to combine that. And I think that was a huge part of our success.
Oh,
early.
absolutely.
Because it's clearly adult targeted product that's just really, really awesome to play. And we're passionate about the games, we're passionate about the beer. And once you have people regularly coming in, you have money to pay the bills, and we were able to hire other employees, which was great. Yep. Our hours went from 18 hours a day to 12, which was a
considerable improvement.
A slow evolution of progress.
Well, we brought in Ashley, a month and a half in?
Yeah.
Yep.
So got ourselves a little bit more help.
She interviewed, and of course, Mike, Chase, Ashley, all still with the company, all still here, which is just amazing and really lucky. I mean, from a president of the company perspective, having low turnover is amazing. Not having to constantly interview, not having to train, all of that stuff.
Well, and of course, our original employee, Lonnie.
Right. Well, yeah, Lonnie was working with us. He helped us demo and build the place. And he was he's employee number 1, and then we have a whole batch of employee number 2s. And Jose, we mentioned, still with the company.
Yep.
Josh, he's now our head tech for the whole company. We have more techs now, which is also great.
Yep.
As we sit in a warehouse of games that all need some work.
Many that you might recognize from previous podcasts still sitting behind us.
We have not in our podcast made enough for. We kind of set up a stage, and we need to start fixing these games and getting these guys out.
Yeah, I would trade them out for a few of the new ones that we've got over there.
Well, we do keep moving stuff. So let's talk beer. Going into it, I know our beer philosophy, and it's kind of my personal beer philosophy, is I love almost all types of beer. And I did not want to be kind of snobby, because 2 years ago, even though craft beer was really, really well developed, it was still coming along. Like compared to some other markets in the United States, Dallas was doing really great. But in the 2 years since, it's grown just considerably. And us saying that we were going to stock craft beer was one of the big things that got people excited. What no one, I guess, was going to be excited about is we also stock these massive tall boys. And the only way to get a big domestic beer like that Budweiser, Bud Light in our place is to get a huge 24 or 25 ounce tall boy.
Well, we had that conversation early on about what we wanted our beer program to be like. And when we first opened, it wasn't exactly as we wanted it to be, but we quickly started taking steps to evolve that. And one of the key factors early on was we had a conversation where we were talking about whether we wanted 40 draft beers or if we wanted a limited selection of draft beers and then a massive undertaking of packaged products.
Right. And one of the reasons we had kind of talked about that, the benefits of having a smaller draft lineup is, I mean, there's a lot of work associated with it, but in a popular place, that means the beers change. You have new draft beer all the time. And though we have recently announced some projects that we might talk about later, where we're going to have a much bigger draft lineup, I really, really love how the dynamic of coming to the arcade and always having something new day to day, it changes dramatically.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes we change over 2-3 taps. And then we've always got new packaged products coming through. But it gave us an advantage because I know you and me, we were sick of walking into these places and they'd just have these massive tap walls. And it felt like every place we went had the exact same beers on draft and we could find them anywhere. And we didn't want to be another place that you could get the same 40 beers. We wanted to have something different. And so we had started talking about the packaged product lineup, just because there's a difference from holding a pint glass to holding a cold bottle.
Right.
As well as, of course, the actual taste of beers and, the maintenance and upkeep on the different lines and the people who are actually trying to clean them and the people who aren't.
Right, yeah. So there was really, really cool places, of course, would have these draft walls. And it would be the same craft beers at every bar. It really felt like. And then you'd kind of start to wonder, some of these bars, though they were really cool and they were mildly popular, they'd have 40 or 50 beers up there. And you'd start to wonder how old some of those kegs would get and how old they would sit in those lines and how often they were flushing their lines, cleaning their lines, all of that stuff. And we thought, this is how we could do something a little different. And we like to experiment, try new things, was to have 4 draft lines, 4 draft beers at any time, and then make sure we extremely focus on cleaning, upkeep, and fresh beer. And of course, Chase now has to bear the brunt of that. So Chase, what's it like having to run with 4 total tap lines in a bar that's as busy as Free Play?
It's mildly frustrating, but
See, he wanted to respond and just be like, it sucks. It really, really sucks. And then he was like, these are my 2 bosses, so I'm going to clean this up.
Nice.
But I've been doing it for so long now that's not a problem. We get to revolve in so many new products and stuff. I work with 7 different distributors. And I've come to like the packaged products a lot better than draft anyway.
So that's the other side of it. Like, we knew we could have a nice beer list with packaged products, but it was able to let us do a little bit more curation because, often, especially some of the craft beer from other states, isn't necessarily available in kegs. And when you do get those kegs, you don't know how well it's been stored, the freshness and everything. Whereas the packaged product generally is fresher, generally is quicker to get out, and it sells faster. So it really let us bring in some stuff that no one had heard about. I mean, things like, which it's a big brewery, but things like Deschutes, we carried it early, and it was a lot of people had never heard of a relatively large brewery like that. So it gave us a lot of freedom to experiment. So we went from opening night, we had Andrews, who is the big distributor here in DFW, one of two big distributors. What products does Andrews have generally?
Generally, they do
the big stuff.
Oh, Blue Moon, Shiner, Angry Orchard, Reds, Crispin.
I feel like you're missing a pretty large
Miller Lite,
there you go.
Coors Light,
the Miller
Coors
products,
Banquet, yeah.
Miller Coors they have, and our relationship with those bigger domestics has always been complicated. But we brought Andrews in, and it was a slow expansion, bringing these other distributors. And how many did you say we work with? Is it 7?
7, yeah. And
7 distributors, and then there's all the independent breweries, right?
Self-distributed guys too.
And of course, in Texas is notorious for just outrageously silly laws on how distribution works, and
3-tier system.
Right, you have to buy from a distributor unless if it's the brewery has a permit to self-distribute, and there's all sorts of restrictions on who's allowed to self-distribute, who has to work with the distributor.
Yeah, if you get past a certain number of barrels a year, you have to be distributed.
Right. So all of the newer breweries, they're generally self-distributed until they sign on with, and it's kind of like different steps of there's different distributors, different levels of distributors, different kind of volume, and it's all just outrageously complicated process. But does that mean though there are 7 different beer deliveries besides the self-distributed stuff every single week?
At the very least, yes. Yeah.
So, all right. So I guess I'm trying to figure out how to properly convey how terrible that is. That means someone has to be... Okay, so that's a good point. In Texas, you have to pay for beer when you receive beer.
Yes.
It's all COD. And there's been some startups that have tried to figure out different little goofy systems and ways.
FinTech, yeah.
Yeah, and those are all fine. Some people prefer them, some people don't like them. But no matter what, someone has to be there to be able to sign and pay for the beer. Yeah. And generally that means someone has to staff our arcade from 9 or so a.m. until we close every single day just to get the beers we want. And of course, the volume we go through, we don't want deliveries when we're open. We want to avoid that as well. I mean, we get plenty when we're open.
It's horrible.
Well, let's see. When we first started, taking it back just a sec, we had around 35 beers available. Mm-hmm. By the end of the first month, we had about 85 beers available. Now we have somewhere between 120 and 140 beers available.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, due to seasonality things, it's constantly rotating too.
Well,
so in 1 year we'll probably have like 300 on the beer list.
So some of these beers we have, 1 or 2 cases that come for, and some of these beers we have 10 plus cases that come every single week.
Right. Well,
that's a lot of beer to store.
And obviously we can't really get beer very easily on the weekend if one particular product is selling well. So we have to be prepared for all sorts of contingencies on beers, having big runs on beers. And we've kind of seen we've got to see kind of firsthand the climb of these regional craft beers, these regional craft breweries that are really, you can tell just from our sales, making a dent in some of those bigger breweries. I mean, we used to sell a ton of Blue Moon. Mm-hmm. We sell less now. Blue Moon, of course, is the fake craft beer of the world. And I feel comfortable saying that because it is. It's a massively, massively produced beer that's meant to taste a little crafty.
A lot of those, the dent in the...
And I like Blue Moon.
The macro crafts, as you were talking about, lends itself mostly to, in the last couple of years, there's a huge push in drink local campaigns.
Right.
Whereas what we want to do is get people to try new things, not necessarily just drink local. We always want to change it and have them drink good quality products.
Right. So that's one of the keys here is we don't just want any beer. We want good beer.
Yeah.
And it's a complicated system because one of the really, I think, successful ways we've been able to transfer people from drinking Miller Lite, Coors Light, is to have Miller Lite and Coors Light in our place next to 100, probably what most people would say better beers, 120 better beers. And that goes a long way. And you have your first, you get your safety net. You always know that's there for you. but you can try something. And once you try that craft beer, you want to try more.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's part of the fun of craft beer is all of the different products on the market and being able to sample these different styled beers, different tasting beers, different beers of the same style that taste different. It's amazing. And I think a lot of people have criticized us for carrying these big domestics, these huge cans of Coors Light or a 40. Wow, I just blanked. What is the 40? I'm sorry.
Colt 45.
Colt 45.
Colt 45. Okay. Yeah, so 40s of Colt 45 available at Free Play right now.
We even have barrel-aged malt liquor, too.
We do. We have barrel-aged malt liquor also available at Free Play right now. I mean, we like to be ridiculous, too.
Well, why take yourself too seriously?
And we do have our big campaign right now that's been outrageously successful. This Drink What You Like. We are trying to do our best not to be judgmental. If you want to drink a Miller Lite, please come. We'd rather you come to the arcade, have a good time, and drink what you like than not come at all, or to feel like you're in a situation where you're being looked down upon for what you actually like to drink. And I think that's another thing that's been a big step forward in terms of craft beer, because there's still places that I go to that I love. Huge craft beer joints that if you had the audacity of ordering a Miller Lite, you'd be laughed out of the place. Which I think is a dangerous thing for craft beer to do, because it pushes people out. There's no reason to be a gatekeeper to beer. Beer is beer. I mean, it's... that pizza expression is used all the time. Even bad pizza is pizza. Even bad beer is still beer. And thank goodness that we have this great thing called beer in the world. So, I mean, hit me with kind of what the sales trends you've seen over the last, say, 2 years, just generally, and the seasonal stuff. I guess I'll kind of spice this in. Sours were really, really hot for a while, right? Sour beers?
Sours were definitely trending for quite a while, and they still are to some degree, but IPAs always.
Well, so IPAs, though, I feel like the breweries have... All right, so let's step back. Sours are beers that generally have a sour note of taste to them.
Yeah, they introduce lactic acid in the brewing process.
Right, and there's 3 or 4 different ways to make it. We won't get hyper technical because honestly, I don't know the exact... But I mean, there's gooses, gooses, you can go down the whole list of how they make the beer have that tart or sour taste to it. And what's the big one that locally that really seemed to introduce people?
Locally?
Salty Lady.
Yeah, definitely. Martin House.
So Martin House releases Martin House releases Salty Lady. And Salty Lady is awesome. It's a great beer, and it really helped introduce people, I think, locally. I think it was a big step for bringing sours in. Yeah. Because sours obviously
made them a lot more casual and approachable.
Salty Lady. But yeah, when you have this local craft brewery, just it makes that, and that becomes kind of their... Is that their highest selling beer, probably?
Yeah, that or True Love. True Love's starting to overtake Salty Lady.
True Love is amazing. A later release that is kind of builds on their expertise, it seems like, to really just... It's awesome. But... So Salty Lady comes out. That kind of seemed to be right in the middle of people starting to bring sours out. That one was a big hit locally. And now we saw probably 30 or 40 big sours come out from big craft breweries shortly thereafter. And it seems like it's dying off a little bit, because there's some people in the world that will never like salty, sour beers.
Yeah.
Well, but they're slightly an acquired taste. I mean, I remember the first time that we tried Salty Lady.
Yeah, we
both did not like it.
We had a Salty Lady that a rep had in their car for a while. Who knows exactly how warm it got. And then we didn't drink it right away when it came to us, but it was delivered warm. We didn't cool it down that much. We tasted it, and it was like, for one, we weren't really prepared for what it was. And two, whatever had happened, it was... seriously sour. And there have been some beers since that are super sours that I've had, but that first experience was rough. And I remember being like, no, we are never ever going to have that in our place. And then we got a cold one not too long after that.
Chase comes to us and he's like, I'm not going to tell you what this is, but I want you to try it. And of course, both me and Corey drink it, and we're both like, hey, that's really good.
Right, that one. So yeah, that was...
Immediately brought it on, and it started selling like crazy.
Yeah, it's been a great seller. And we still, though... All right, so I didn't mean to cut you off. We were going sours. You were then going on to something else that I can't remember.
So trends.
Trends?
Yeah, any trends that you've kind of picked up on?
Dude, really, it's just the flavor of the month, man. The beer community is honestly always changing. So bourbon barrel aged stuff, sours, IPAs, fresh IPAs.
So yeah,
hazy IPAs are the trend right now. New England style IPAs.
Right.
Yeah.
Hazy. I mean, it's good stuff. It's
And that's a bad word to the brewery. Brewers, they hate that shit.
I know. It's you're just cursing on the internet. Can't do that. But so it's kind of interesting because we have to be careful, and that brings up a really good point. There is a big craft beer scene everywhere now, and each major metropolitan area has this huge craft beer scene. And as we've seen kind of with fighting game scenes, video game scenes in general have a tendency to turn toxic at a certain point, and it's really hard for a scene not to. And so we always have to be careful. And it also, I mean, the video games, the arcade games, if I was building an arcade in my house, it would probably look quite a bit different than free play.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because I have my own taste, and everyone has their own taste. And in communities, it becomes kind of like your taste is what's good. It's not, there's no opinions. And anyone who disagrees with you is just wrong. And we sometimes have to be careful with the craft beer community. You can see these trends cropping up in the craft beer community, and sometimes it's just like they're feeding on each other, and things are getting crazy. One of the things, and I've been reading a lot of scientific research on this, and we at some point need to do a true taste test. 6-month-old IPAs. In the beer community right now, people say that after 6 months, the active something in IPAs just basically dies. It goes away.
The hops tend to fade away.
It's just, you can't taste it anymore. It tastes totally different. Now I've tasted I've never done it side by side, and that's the problem. I've had really good IPAs that were old, and of course there are some IPAs that are designed specifically to be aged.
120 minute.
120 minute, yeah. From, is it Dogfish Head?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is an amazing IPA. Mm-hmm. And I don't know the difference, but I have been reading some research, and it's kind of silly. So right now, every bar in town, every beer bar is rushing to have the freshest IPAs because the craft beer scene is getting a little nuts about it. And it's kind of fun, but at the same time, we have to be careful because the average person who comes in the free play, right, they want it to taste good. But whether their IPA is 7 days old or 14 days old, it's not going to like affect them, and it's not going to be a big selling point. They're going to drink what they really want to taste, and they're probably going to order a big domestic first. And the fresh IPA thing has to come down to like the bartender to sell and try to educate. But I know I was in there on Wednesday when you had 1 day old IPA that we were serving, which was a lot of fun. It was really neat to say that these IPAs were canned yesterday.
Yeah.
And which I guess that gets into a whole nother thing, canning dates. The accuracy of that's been disputed constantly.
Some of them don't even have the born on dates.
Well, and yeah, some don't have canning dates. The other thing is there are breweries that will sit on batches
before they
can them later.
Yeah.
And then they'll put a later can date, which affects whether or not the IPA is of a certain age. And then again, scientists aren't even sure this matters. There are people that are legitimately saying that's complete nonsense. That of course the beer is going to change as it ages, and like most packaged products would. But that this debate over whether or not you can get the right flavor, 3 months out, 6 months out, 9 months out, there are some people that are just kind of laughing at that, scoffing at that. And of course, like we said, there are IPAs that they want you to age. I mean, it actually says, I think, on the 120 minute,
it does.
It says drink it now or in 10 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but that's the thing. We get really absorbed in those types of things, like delivering the freshest IPAs in town, and me getting on the microphone during an event, and be like, guys, you're never gonna believe this. 1 day IPA. This was canned yesterday in Oklahoma. Someone personally drove this, and like
that Battleship tournament was awesome.
Yeah, I know. We just did a really really cool event where we played the board game Battleship, and we paired it up with. I'm blanking on the Rough Tail, and they had just released their IPA. They're calling Rough Tail IPA. Rough Tail makes a lot of IPAs, but this is Rough Tail IPA.
Yes, I do.
It's tough to keep straight, but it was one day old, canned the day before IPA, and we definitely got some sales just based on that because, I mean,
everyone wanted to try it.
The other thing was I was there announcing that we had 1 day old, and everyone was like, I don't even know if that matters, but if they're acting like it's special, and that is really special. And now we have it, and it's 6 or 7 days old, and it still tastes awesome.
So, it must be expired. We should dump it all out.
So, I mean, those are some of the challenges we run into, right? And we've seen the sours rise and kind of taper. It seems to me, and there's a seasonal aspect, right? Mm-hmm. beers tend to get darker in the winter and lighter in the summer.
Yeah.
And that is the generic season. Like the winter season will always be something a little deep, and then the summer season will be something fresh and refreshing.
We're approaching saison territory. Your favorite?
Oh man, farmhouse ales. And that's the
Need
other
more Funkworks.
Yeah. Oh man, I need some. I remember, and that's we've had some interesting beers come through that in our kind of naivety of beer knowledge would put it on, and now I would say our palates are more refined, but at the time we'd get it and we just not know what it was. What was which Funkworks did we receive?
Tropic King.
We did have Tropic King for a long time, which is amazing. I love it.
Are you thinking about Lazy Saison?
No, I'm thinking about the pink one.
The pink, that was provincial.
Oh yeah, Funkworks Provincial. Raspberry Provincial.
Yeah. So we get that in, we hook it up to the draft line, we pour it, and it pours this cloud.
I remember your face, yeah.
And I was like, oh no, what did I? And I had ordered that, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And then of course it became like one of my favorite all-time
really
beers.
like that.
It's really,
it was really good.
But selling that was very difficult. For one, it looked
like stayed on until Valentine's Day, so that was good.
Bizarre good.
Right.
It looked
We were lucky there. We were able to run a special just because it was
yeah.
pink.
Speaking of which, I want you to think about that. Valentine's Day's in like 2 weeks.
I got AleSmith My Bloody Valentine.
AleSmith just named Brewery of the Year on 3 major publications.
Yeah.
All controversial, but AleSmith
It was very unfortunate during that Great Beers contest or whatever. None of the Texas breweries made it to the top 100.
Not a single Texas. And of course, Chester King is a top 100 brewery. No one could ever argue otherwise. But it was kind of an indoctrination of the craft beer communities in Texas, because what really happened was all these breweries have these little communities around them that just came and really supported them on these different internet things and internet rating. And people in Texas are hard. They're harsh too. If you look at a lot of ratings of different breweries and a lot of different stuff, Texas ones seem to be depressed primarily because the people in Texas are a little harsher. They have higher expectations for one reason or another. And there was a big long conversation that I've been having quite a few about it as to how these breweries can better build their communities. And they've come to me, and they actually should probably be talking to Chris Delp, who built the free play community, because the free play community is considered kind of like a utopia of communities, because there's no we don't let really anything be toxic. We're really supportive. Everyone in there is supportive. We're all just trying to have fun, party and play arcade games as much as possible. And some people are there more for the arcade games, some people are there more for partying, and it just comes together as this really cool community of people who just love free play. And so if you go look at the different brewery communities, and especially the larger Texas craft beer communities, there is just a lot of negativity. And it's I can't really explain it how that rate beer thing went as bad as it did.
Yeah,
because we have a lot of great breweries.
Oh, absolutely.
New Brumfeld's Brewing is really underrated, and they have like a 3.1 on most of their stuff. And it's like, where's that coming from?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of times I'll drink a really great beer from a local brewery and look up the rating and just not even be able to fathom how that could be so low. And then at the same time, I'll drink a pretty awesome beer from a brewery somewhere else, up in Oregon or something, and go look at the rating and it's really, really high. And I'm like, and it starts to mess with your head, right? You're like, do I not know what I'm talking about? Or is it the others who suck? I don't know. But yeah, so that said, we've had quite a few craft brewery openings.
Yeah, Texas
in
is a
DFW,
lot.
it's exploding. Well, DFW is huge, right? We have 7 million people in what they call the Metroplex, around 7 million. That's a huge market. I mean, there are many companies that if they could have this just prepackaged market of 7 million people, they're going to open. They're going to do everything they can. I mean, free play is no different. When we opened, we were the first hardcore retro arcade, no ticket games, no redemption. We were that especially full size in DFW.
People definitely took notice.
And one of the reasons, if there were already a bunch of people doing what we were doing, we probably would have never opened free play, which would have been a shame. But that's just kind of how it goes. And yeah, you can see these breweries see the same things, and now you just have, every city in the Metroplex has their own breweries.
Well, yeah. Does anyone have the current numbers on that? Because I remember when we opened, we'd looked up the number of breweries in DFW, and it was around 76 at the time, I think. Don't quote me on that, but there were a lot of them.
That includes a lot of small. Well, we've had some go out of business. We have had some
rebrand too.
Well, we've had some rest in peace, Revolver, get bought by bigger companies, which
kind of interesting though, because our sales on Revolver used to be huge.
Right, Revolver was one of our best selling beers.
Yeah.
And ever since the purchase, I mean, they're not doing any. They used to do these really cool beer releases. They used to have their reps out. It was all this big, awesome, self-contained thing. And once you get bought by a behemoth, was it Miller Coors?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not going to be able to. They're not going to have the same budgets. They're not going to have the same people.
Right.
Because I don't want to work for Miller Coors. I mean, if I was like, man, I could see myself working in a cool local brewery doing something, but Miller Coors, which of course we sell a ton of Miller Lite, a ton of Miller Lite. Is it still our best selling beer?
Pretty much. Yeah, usually about 13 cases a week
at Richardson.
Yeah,
right. It's which that's actually been pretty steady. All of our beer sales growth has been pretty much through craft beer. It seems like our big domestics are there, and we just slowly shift people over, which is the goal. Let's see.
Yeah, you want to get some people to branch out.
Right. Well, and it gives, especially if you have to set the right tone through the service, it really goes a long way in making people feel comfortable trying something new. All right, so let's just spitball. Least favorite beer at Free Play. No judging. We were about to do our favorite beers and stuff.
O'Doul's.
We don't
even care that.
Yeah, I was about to say
Texas Select.
Yeah, Texas Select.
We had that for a while.
We still do.
Yeah.
Okay. Least favorite beer to sell then.
Oh.
Which beer, if you had the authority, would you just yank off the menu?
I don't want to step on any toes.
Oh God! All right, fine. What's your favorite beer? Jeez, come on. Let's name some products here.
Right now, I really like Reverie by Martin House. It's their pomegranate sour.
And as you can tell by Chase's hat, I'm a pretty big fan of Martin House in general.
Oh, absolutely. Well, they have some solid products.
Right. Well, and True Love is an absolute staff favorite and has been since it came out. And since it was that the rebranding of the
Stars Above, yeah.
Stars Above. Great. Awesome beer. Okay, so you don't want to say your least favorite. I mean, how do you feel about selling things like Colt 45, Miller Lite, Coors Light by the truckload?
It doesn't bother me at all. If people want to drink it, they can buy it. That's their choice, not mine.
You know what we should talk about? How long it took us to get... Was it Coors Light?
Really?
Was it Coors Light, or which was the light beer that we had two of the three? Because it's Miller Lite, Coors Light, and...
Well, we didn't bring in Budweiser for a while.
And Bud Light. Was it Bud Light that
it was
we didn't
Bud Light
have?
that we took forever.
So, yeah.
Well, we didn't bring Bud Light in for like a year.
Yeah, we were vehemently
We had
against
regular
that.
Budweiser after like 3-4 months.
Well, yeah, regular Budweiser is a different story than Bud Light, and it almost became kind of a joke because I don't necessarily hold Bud Light lower or higher than things like Miller Lite or Coors Light, but and then we brought it in and we hid it. We only had it when people would specifically request it without looking at the menu.
Well, yeah, all of the other, the merchandiser, we had them all lined up, all the tall boys, and then we had that hidden down low underneath the bar.
For no reason, but it was kind of fun. Let's see. All right, Richard, favorite beer currently stocked that you can think of?
Currently stocked. Ooh, that's hard.
Okay, you can say that we've had previously too.
Well, my absolute favorite that we have had was Rar's Angry Goat, which unfortunately they discontinued.
Yeah, they don't make that anymore?
Yeah, they don't.
Wow.
That was pretty good.
Wasn't that a year-round they used to have, or was it never a year-round?
I'm not sure.
It seems like it was easy for us to get. But,
well, it was a beautiful Doppelbock. Unfortunately, I guess it just didn't sell. And
oh, yeah, no, that was seasonal.
It was, yeah.
All
right, favorite now then.
Currently, let's see. I am. Now we rotated that one out. Sorry, I like a lot of the dark beers, so I'm thinking like the Doppelbocks that we've had were that and Einstock. We did their toasted porter as well for a little bit.
What do you think of that 2014 BCBS?
Oh man, that is so smooth.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of an interesting point. Right.
That may actually just have to be it because
right now we have a beer that's older than Free Play that we're selling, which we actually will not disclose kind of the logistics of getting that and how we got it and.
Just got the last cases in DFW.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're the only ones that I'm aware that have it on the menu.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go to some craft beer guy's house; he might have saved it since then. But really, really tasty. Totally rich. Bourbon County brand stout. Is
Yeah.
that BCBS? Amazing. I guess if I was going to say my favorite, it would, do we even have Tropic King still?
No.
We need to get Tropic King
They
back.
reformulated it and nobody liked it anymore.
Oh, that's right. It was just not quite as, it just didn't quite feel as special. Like it felt really different before, and now tastes a little bit like a lot of things. The resin is my old school go-to. Is it double IPA? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do love that. Let's give a quick shout out to our Spring Series sponsors, Noble Ray. What was that reformulated, they call it, the original one was Boss Bitch, but we just had it on draft a couple weeks ago.
We did 30K Millionaire a couple weeks ago.
Not that, I can't remember. Anyways, we'll look that up on the break and try to figure it out. But that Noble Ray release was
amazing.
Absolutely tops.
Yeah, it was. That was one of their best for sure.
Well, they've been playing with the different flavors, but that is a super deep, super rich beer that is just crushing. And of course, Noble Ray is sponsoring us again for our spring tournament series, along with these awesome guys at Mr. Brown's Coffee. And we always we do a lot of brewery events, don't we?
Yeah.
I think probably more than a lot of bars. Not necessarily a lot of beer. A lot of beer bars are doing brewery events all the time.
Well, we put a lot more into them too.
So yeah, I think Chase has now kind of learned the ropes on scheduling these things, because it's really hard doing a brewery event. It's harder doing a brewery event at Free Play because we go all out and we want the brewery to come like correct and have all these cool swag and have some reps there that we can work with.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Just on Wednesday we ran it with Rough Tail. We did the Battleship, an actual board game Battleship tournament that worked great. It was beautiful. Everyone had a lot of fun with some fresh beer, some cheap beer. We had glassware from Rough Tail. We had different swag, and we've been doing probably a major brewery event once a month on average.
At least, yeah.
Sometimes they get really crammed in there.
Yeah, we have another one next week.
And we have two next week.
Shoot. That's right.
Who do you have on Thursday?
Epic Brewing.
Let's give the actual date, since who knows when this podcast
February
is. February 8th, you'll have who?
Epic
will be coming in. Are they in Colorado?
Yeah.
Yeah. Big brewery. I think they were on the list. The controversial list.
Yeah.
They're a pretty controversial brewery, and we won't get into that. We don't want to really irritate anyone. Most of these guys are our friends. We love beer. Then we have on Wednesday, I can't remember who's going to be doing a Operation tournament.
Are you doing Operation now?
Yeah, we're doing an actual Operation tournament. And I cannot for the life of me remember which brewery will be there at Arlington, but it's going to be an awesome event. And so let's give me a rundown of what happens during a brewery event.
Generally, well, most guys just run in like a standard pint night where you just pour, and the rep goes around, talks to customers, buys some beers. We generally go over the PA, kind of hype up the products, talk about the products, and really engage the customers and get them to engage with the reps too.
Well, and just to cut in really quick, one of the reasons it took us so long to start doing these kind of brewery events, we'd gone to so many that were just kind of boring.
Yeah.
And then you started seeing these places, not to insult any places, but places that aren't that cool. Chain barbecue places doing pint nights and stuff like that, where you're just kind of like, it starts to strip the...
Buy a beer, get a free glass.
Right. It starts to kind of just make it less cool, less interesting, and everyone is doing it all the time, and different people are doing it for different reasons.
Well, and we didn't want to be like anyone else. We wanted to do it differently.
So yeah, technically our first brewery event was the first spring series that Noble Ray sponsored, where we just, we had banners, we have swag everywhere, we're just throwing t-shirts
that was
at people.
Cool.
And well, that was our introduction to, maybe we can do brewery events a little different than others. So let's talk about then, you were just about to get into what a Free Play event does versus what other people are doing. So let's talk.
When we actively engage people like that, and then kind of get the reps in on it too, the experience is far more intimate than just grab a pint, take it home. Right.
And yeah, you get to interact both with the brewery reps and with our employees that are running challenges or anything. I know Chris Delp has run quite a few. I've run quite a few. And they're all different. At the end of them, you always kind of feel which ones were really awesome, which ones were pretty cool, and which ones you just somehow missed the mark on. and it's really fun having
Ramen noodles.
those different oh man, so that was we put a lot of work into
That was a harrowing experience for me.
Let's talk about it. What was the beer?
The beer was good. It was Cup and Noodle by Collective.
Yeah, so that was actually a tasty. I mean, it was a unique beer. That was
absolutely
a true beer drinker's beer.
Yeah, lemongrass, coriander, it's delicious.
That's not the kind of thing that's just going to automatically appeal to the masses. If you're used to drinking Bud Light, Cup of Noodles was not going to be just like what blew your mind. Like you were just going to be like, wow, this tastes totally weird. I don't want any of it.
Yeah, it was the wrong everything. Wrong time, wrong beer.
So they were releasing it, and it turns out that is brewed with instant ramen noodles, to give it, and it kind of smells like ramen noodles. It has, and you can kind of taste them. But now the beer is so much more complex than that. It's not even fair to really hype the ramen noodles part of it. So we scheduled a brewery event, got a ton of glassware together.
I think that was our slowest day for that quarter.
Yeah, got a ton of hype on. I mean, we spent a ton of personal capital.
Employee meals really were cheap for the next few
trying
months.
to hype it up, and we bought a ton of ramen.
Yeah,
and we bought ways to make sure we were serving ramen.
We had cups, we had chopsticks, we had everything we needed.
So total sales of ramen that day were one single bowl. We sold one bowl.
No, we didn't.
Yeah.
We sold zero.
No, there was
Really?
a bowl put through the register. I don't know if y'all charged each other for it or what, but there was one bowl of noodles charged early. Someone that was really excited about it. They actually bought the beer. They bought the noodles. They were the one person that bought into the promo.
I hope they really enjoyed it.
Well, and selling ramen noodles. Now, of course, instant ramen is totally different than restaurant ramen, and there's restaurant ramen. We're about to move into a place at one of our new locations that we'll talk about on a different podcast where they hand pull their noodles every morning, have their broth sitting 48 hours. Not the same as boiling a pot of water and throwing
Marinated boiled eggs.
a brick of noodles in and then throwing some sodium onto it and eating it, which I love instant ramen. Like I can't really complain, but even charging $2 for a double ramen bowl, people were like, why would I ever do that when it costs like 10 cents at the grocery store? And of course we had to buy the thing to serve it in. We had chopsticks. We had to, actually make it. I would not have had trouble if I walked into a place doing this event selling $2 noodles, but even that just really irritated people. So we had, I think 35 total admissions that night.
Yep.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Which if we had 35 admissions on a Tuesday, that would still be the slowest day of the year.
Yeah.
And this was like a Wednesday or a Thursday. And I remember checking in on it because we put a lot of personal capital and like all this effort marketing the event and everything, and it just did not work.
Well, but I think that's something that we've learned about events in general, is that you can plan them as much as you want, but some of them, they're going to be awesome and epic nights that everyone remembers, and other ones, they're going to be just fine, but maybe they don't quite go where we had hoped. But it doesn't mean we can stop doing events.
Right.
You can't let yourself get disheartened.
Well, right. We just have to keep coming up with cool, unique ideas for these kinds of events and promotions and parties, and we'll eventually see which ones work. And if you come to enough of them, I mean, some of them are going to be absolutely epic, and some of them are going to fall a little short. But
geez, yeah, there was when I played football in college for not very long, but I was a defensive back, and it's the only thing I really remember is a quote that is every single play a defensive back has to completely forget what happened the last time and make sure that they do everything this time over and over and over and over. And as soon as you start thinking about, what went wrong last time, you're just going to not want to do it ever again. You're going to want to stop. And events are the same way. You have to keep just scheduling awesome things, and you have to try to, we've learned a lot about how events work, flow, vibe, all sorts of stuff that I talk about constantly now with Chase. And we have a manager's kind of chat line, and I think every other word that I ever use is vibe. But it's important, and it's stuff that we've learned. In these brewery events, vibe matters a lot. Like that Battleship event was not the most attended at all brewery event we've ever had, but the vibe was right. The vibe was perfect. We had a lot of people drinking really cool beer with our event partner Rough Tail that night.
He had a good time.
Well, yeah, the rep got to talk to the consumers about their beers. I think they probably made a couple lifelong consumers that if they see their product at a bar or at a grocery store or convenience store, they're gonna buy it. They're gonna be like, awesome, I know I met that guy, I want to support that brewery. And all the people that participated in the Battleship tournament will probably forever remember what Rough Tail Brewing is, because every single one of them right before the tournament, it seemed like, I mean, we didn't even stage this or coordinate it, but they all had their Rough Tail beer in a Rough Tail pint glass sitting there right next to their Battleship. And there were, I mean, we got some photos from it, but those don't even do justice. Just looking down the line and having all these Rough Tail pint glasses playing Battleship and these people just going at each other, like, it was awesome. It was perfect. And we've had other more successful in terms of numbers events that just didn't, at the end of it, it was kind of like, okay, that was an event, but it didn't really connect the way we wanted to. But like we said, we just have to keep on trucking. And how hard has it been to get breweries to understand that when we do an event, they're gonna have to bring glassware, do stuff. I mean, there are a lot of TABC rules that we're talking about here that we have to be serious, that there's all sorts of hoops we have to jump through to run these events. So when we say things like bring glassware, we've got the rep there giving it away, doing all this hard work that the brewery has to send that person and do that. And it's a whole complicated process, just scheduling it. Yeah.
Just to get stuff from them sometimes.
The legal requirements that they have to follow, that we have to follow at the outset are complicated. So just before a brewery is going to want to do this with you, they want to make sure that it's going to be a good event, something that they can put, and especially when we start coming to them and we're like, we need active participation, we need all sorts of stuff from you. It gets harder and harder and harder to convince them. Now I think they kind of know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
We've worked with quite a few breweries on multiple events that are just, they'll do events elsewhere and then they'll do a free play event and they walk away from that free play event just excited about their products because we're so excited about them when they're in our place.
We should probably take a break in a few just so I can call Richardson.
So right now, guys, we are open. This is a Saturday podcast. So what Chase was saying is we haven't checked in on our places in a while, and you have 3 of the 4 managers of all free play sitting at this table right now. So we're going to take a quick break. We will be back talking about some new locations we're going to try to open pretty soon. Maybe doing a little bit more beer talk. We really need to find out what Chase's least favorite beer is.
I think so.
We will claw that out of him when we return for our next podcast. Thanks, guys.